Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Star Wars Stuff Podcast. My name is David.
Hello, David. It is good to see you, sir.
Hello. And joining us today for this Ahsoka pre-show, the very last Ahsoka pre-show for hopefully season 1, is Kyle from the Fandom Podcast Network. How are you doing, Kyle?
I am doing good, sir. I cannot believe we are already to the end of Ahsoka. This has flown by.
I was just thinking about that today. Wearing the shirt that I'm wearing right now, I bought it, I believe, at Celebration 2022 Anaheim, and thinking that even then when I bought this shirt, I knew I was going to wear it around town. I was wondering how many people were going to say something to me about the shirt. Nobody did. I wore it around town maybe like, I don't know, 10 to 20 times. No one said anything. And then wearing the shirt reminded me, okay, we're going to get this TV show with live action Ahsoka, live action Sabine, live action Ezra, live action Thrawn. It's going to be so great. And it almost feels like it took years to get to this point. And in a couple hours or less than 2 hours, we're going to get the finale here of the first season. Hopefully it's the first season. I say first season hoping that we get a second season. So that's the hope. Unless they tie in, do a thing where they continue on the characters in Mando season 4 or whatever TV show or the new Filoni film that's about to drop that I think we all kind of think it's going to be called Heir to the Empire. And maybe that becomes a trilogy. We don't know. I think we're going to talk a lot about that here. And along with Kyle, a few other friends are going to show up during the show. So look forward to that. Also, we do want to acknowledge everyone that's in the chat already. Noah, he says, let's go. It's finally here. May the force be with us all tonight. Mob Rules is in the chat. Let's go. And of course, we want to thank everyone that supports the podcast. I'm talking about the people on Patreon. All of our awesome supporters. On the purple tier, we have Darth Ace 1, Liam McCallion, Texas Vader 76, Chris Simpson, Kevin Leininger, Devin McCaffrey, Drew Peters, Zach Netzel. On the red tier, we have Fenrir 526, Maya Morris. On the black tier, we have Maka Tautala, Nathan Shank, and Evan Opaker. Thank you so much to everyone out there that supports us out there on Patreon. We got a lot of people watching us right now, including we can see his name, Craig 5. Welcome to the show.
I'm here. I'm ready.
Craig, I'm wondering, did you fly through the remains of Alderaan coming out of hyperdrive when you joined the podcast?
Actually, I started thinking about if Colin was going to be on tonight and brought up The Last Jedi, and it just makes me so upset.
I can understand. I can respect your thoughts on that.
So I get a little upset and shaky and angry.
So, Craig, what are your thoughts on tonight's episode? What do you think we're going to see? What are you anticipating?
Okay, so I've been thinking about this, and I have no idea. No, I'm just kidding. I think that we got to see. Okay, I think at some point it's going to seem like Ahsoka and Sabine and Ezra are going to be trying to get back to stop Thrawn in time, but it can't happen. I just pooped myself. Is that what it says?
No, it says Noah on YouTube says Craig definitely just got back from watching The Last Jedi to pump himself up.
How dare you, sir?
Who could have worked in that statement? I'm just saying.
Well, I mean, if you look at it this way, I get pumped up knowing that nothing could be worse than that. So whatever we see tonight, it can't be worse than Last Jedi. So,
well,
so it can't be. It's impossible. They've already tainted Luke's character. Nothing's worse than that. I'm sorry.
So I do have a theory about tonight's episode.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do think, first of all, if you haven't come to the realization that we're going to be ending on a cliffhanger tonight, you haven't been paying attention to the show or the timeline.
I think for sure.
I truly believe two things. One, it is going to be Ezra, Sabine, and Ahsoka trying to get to Thrawn before he leaves. I don't think they're going to be successful, and Thrawn and his soon-to-be resurrected army of the dead will be off to the Star Wars galaxy proper, while Ahsoka, Ezra, and Sabine are stranded on this planet. But I think the other thing we're going to see is a reveal, and it's going to involve Balin, of what exactly is on this planet, because I think that could be the ultimate solution on how Ezra, Ahsoka, and Sabine eventually get off this planet later on.
Yeah, I think something along those lines is going to happen too. And it's really weird because your cat is in the background, but it looks like my cat. So it looks like my cat is at your house.
If it's any consolation, there's my other cats.
Okay. I have a Maine Coon sitting right here. I'll try and pull him up here. That looks exactly like your cat.
Yeah, these are my Loth cats. They've been a little bit excited lately because of Ahsoka, and I think it's close to a full moon outside, so they've got their little werecats going on.
So I had one thing that I thought might happen. I thought we might have seen Luke in this series at some point. I would have liked to have seen a scene with him and Anakin and Ahsoka all together. But I wouldn't be surprised if there was like a credit scene where when Thrawn makes it back, which I think he will, there's a shot of Luke picking up a disturbance in the Force. That would make sense.
It'll be Grogu.
Grogu? Like,
that would be interesting. And it looks like we have another person joining us here. Kevin, what is up, man?
Hey,
going on, guys? Good to see you.
You look familiar, sir.
Kevin, this is Kyle. Kyle, this is Kevin.
We don't know each other at all.
Oh, you. What's up, David? Good to see you, man.
Great to see you. What are your thoughts for tonight's episode, Kevin?
I'm excited for it. I'm expecting a cliffhanger. I'm not expecting them to wrap it up at all. Maybe a couple little story threads might wrap up, and then we move on to like the bigger picture. I'm expecting a season 2, excuse me. I don't think they're gonna wait until maybe the next season of Mandalorian to answer more questions, especially with Thrawn. I really need to see Thrawn be a menace to society for the New Republic, and we really haven't seen that yet. So I'm excited, curious to see what's going to happen.
I don't think we're going to see Thrawn really as a menace, at least in the main galaxy, maybe back where he's at. But I don't think he's going to have time to really do anything.
Not at the end of this season.
Yeah.
No. Maybe he'll find a way to, maybe they'll get back to what he's been looking for. But I think that then maybe in Ahsoka season 2 or something, we'll get a little more or something. I'm hoping that'll be announced. We'll see. I don't know.
So that brings up two questions I have. One, are we sure Thrawn would be considered a menace? Because I kind of think the way the New Republic runs itself in the first place is a menace.
It's a good point.
Number two, I mean, we know Skeleton Crew's the next Star Wars series, which is supposed to have a little bit of tie into this, but because we just got the end of the writer strike, they're still negotiating with the actors. Do we even know what is next for Star Wars after Skeleton Crew? And obviously we know Andor season 2, but that doesn't tie in with this. So what is the next thing? Is it Mando? Is it Ahsoka season 2? There's really nothing that's even started as far as what's the next level of this particular story.
Well, I think in the Favloni verse, we're going to get Skeleton Crew, which is going to take place around the same timeline as Mando season 3. And then after that, it's going to lead into, I know we're going to get the Acolyte, which is 100 years before the Phantom Menace. And then after that, Mando season 4 has been written by Favreau, but of course they hadn't been able to really make progress on it. Pre-production stuff, but if it's already been written, the cast is essentially there. So I think that's kind of in flux, though, because I think everything got pushed due to the writers-actors strike. So I think 2026 was a designated year for 2 films to drop, and you would assume one of those would be Filoni's film, which would probably be something like an Heir to the Empire title type film that involves Thrawn and everything that we've seen built up to this point.
So, but I mean, I'm thinking then because that's a 2-year drop. Maybe a 2025, whether it's an Ahsoka season 2 or a Mandalorian season 4. And the only reason why I say 2 with Mandalorian season 4 is you have to deal with Pedro's availability, because I know HBO is incredibly anxious to get Last of Us season 2 rolling.
He just has to show up for an hour to record his
Hold
stuff.
on.
Brendan and Lateef will be fine. He could probably do it from his laptop wherever he's filming in Canada.
You can do it from StreamYard.
I'm sure you've played The Last of Us Part 2 if you're worried about Pedro being busy with The Last of Us.
Oh no, I have played it, but I have heard that they are doing that. The second season is kind of more of a bridge between those two games. So
but that can't possibly go more than half the season, I don't think.
We'll see what HBO does, but even still, I'm just saying he's got lots of commitments right now too.
Yeah, we got a lot of people in chat right now asking some questions here. So Chamirquay from YouTube says, we think anyone is going to die in the finale?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Who?
Balin. I think Balin.
That would be my biggest guess too, though. Like, honestly, like I can't see anybody else dying.
I could see what's her name, the right hand of Thrawn,
Morgan Elsbeth.
Yeah, I think that.
Yeah, she'd be expendable after this.
Yeah,
maybe one of the Night Sisters.
Yeah.
So Jedi Bulldog on YouTube asks, you are getting either a cameo of Luke or Leia with hers.
I think he means Hera.
Oh, Hera.
I don't think any Leia. I don't think we're going to see a Leia in Star Wars again, at least unless it's a very young Leia. But
I wouldn't be surprised if we got a Leia, honestly.
Yeah. This Facebook user asks, when did Luke go into hiding versus when Ahsoka is taking place?
Luke doesn't
years
Years.
later.
yeah.
He still has to build that Jedi Academy thing, and
probably like 10 years. He's probably got at least close to 10 years, right? Because this is like 5 years after Return of the Jedi.
So this is kind of right after that event we actually saw on screen where we saw Ahsoka and Luke together, and he's building that Jedi temple with those droids. The Jedi Academy.
Ben should be young, right? Ben should be like 6, right?
Yeah, fairly young, a little younger than Jason Syndulla there. Jorge on YouTube asks, could it be Palpatine calling for Balin?
That's an interesting theory too. I thought that too.
Interesting. I've not thought of that.
Popular theory, I think it's like Zepho related, like from the Jedi Survivor video games, because you see the hieroglyphics on one of those sides of the spire that Thrawn is on.
What characters, other than I think that robot, have they brought out of video games to really show in live action? There's always speculation, Star Killer this and always something from video games, but they really haven't pulled from that pool yet, except for that one robot that I know Star Killer had. Didn't Pelimoto have something like that in Mandalorian?
BD1, the BD droid.
Yeah, other than
the HK droids too, right? Were in video games.
I don't
the
know.
HK assassin
the
droids.
assassin droids.
I think there's a distinct possibility before it's said and done, Cal could make a live action appearance.
Yeah, the way all that Cal Kestis stuff feels like it's going to transpire is that they're going to have to get all the way through the trilogy of the video games, solidify that story, and then he can make his live action jump to TV or film. That's what it feels like, because I think it's a matter of story, and I think they maybe have some maybe a contractual obligation to the studio that we got to do this, and then we take the character back almost. Well,
they're working on that third game as we speak. So
yeah. So Zach on YouTube says, I think Shin might die, or Bloodlust might get the best of her.
I don't see it happening.
I could see her being left on the planet with Ahsoka, Sabine, and Ezra.
Yeah.
Clearly, Thrawn does not care at all what happens to them. So,
yeah. Jedi Bulldog on YouTube says, I heard they cut a lot out with Balin after he died, so I think we get him walking off and no closure on what he is searching for. That would not be I don't think that'd make the fans very happy to not find out what he was searching for. I don't think you can.
It makes sense though, especially if they expected to have him for another season or even a movie appearance. They would have to cut or alter something to showcase another trajectory for his character if he's not returning.
Well, I mean, they could simply just recast. I know it's.
I think they'd have a hard time recasting because I think the love for Ray Stevenson. This isn't a Terrence Howard to Don Cheadle kind of thing. I mean, Ray Stevenson has already left his major mark on this character. I know a lot of people.
Yeah,
that's their favorite character of this series, and I'm be honest with you, he's probably my most intriguing character of the season. When he's on screen,
he's the best character.
Yeah.
He's great.
I agree with that. Yeah,
he's great, and he's it's it's been everybody's just been incredibly blown away by this character. I mean, they talk about this character more than I've seen any character really be talked about in a long time.
More than anyone. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Like, people obviously love Mando, but they don't really talk about his character. They like him, but he's representing something unique and different that we haven't really seen before.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just one of those things. Yeah, I know he's a beloved character. I think within our Star Wars bubble, he's like super revered, but I don't think that there would be much. I don't know. I mean, it's you go back to certain situations just like this. I mean, to me, the situation that really jumps to the front of my brain is like the Black Panther situation when Chadwick Boseman passed. We all kind of knew, yeah, they probably were going to recast Black Panther, but I think this is maybe a little bit different. I mean, because Chadwick was like very kind of like revolutionary and very much kind of just a character that you just do not recast just due to all the circumstances.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's other actors. If the story called for it, they could do it. If Filoni did choose what Jedi Bulldog is saying and that they cut out stuff and kind of ended the character's reign right there. I mean, I could see it either way, but I wouldn't have an issue if they decided to recast.
In this case, I wouldn't either.
I think the only way you can really do it is if he discovers whatever this power is that he's looking for on this planet, and maybe the episode ends with him being pulled into that power, and he comes out changed from discovering that power. I think that's really the only way you could do it.
That's what I was kind of thinking today, that maybe he gets transformed into something else and he gets absorbed, like you said, and it's like a totally different entity. That's a possibility. Jorge on YouTube says, I heard Pedro is no longer the Mandalorian. Any thoughts? I think he's just referencing all the talk about how like Bo-Katan was like the center really of Mandalorian season 3, and Pedro just simply recorded his voice, was never on set. I think they're still going to use Pedro. I think he's still there. I think he's still fine with everything.
Yeah. He said in interviews, I'll do this as long as they'll let me.
Yeah. And he's one of the biggest stars at the moment. This Facebook user says Thrawn had missions with Anakin and Vader. Getting some content on that would be cool. He did reference Anakin in the last episode.
I can see where they play out maybe a little bit more of why he is the way he is about Anakin. I mean, I know they covered it in the novels, but I could see some maybe doing some flashback stuff with Hayden or something like that as a possibility in a later season.
When you say novels, do you mean the new canon novels? Because I didn't read or listen to
the new canon. Yeah, the new canon novels.
Okay. There's the mission where Anakin and Thrawn end up on Batuu, actually, at Galaxy's Edge, and there's like a shootout. They go on a mission together, and then, of course, in the Thrawn comic, Thrawn references Darth Vader formerly being Anakin, so he reveals that he's one of the few people that knows that he is actually Anakin, and actually survives it because Vader usually kills that person. But I mean, the thing that kind of got to me, it was kind of head scratching, was the fact that when Thrawn asked for kind of a research to be done on Ahsoka, it like he didn't know that Anakin was Ahsoka's master. That's kind of surprising to me. I know probably maybe it wasn't talked about, but I mean, you figure it's Thrawn. He knows a lot about the people that he's close with. And at that point in time, he was close with Anakin and kind of close to Vader and Palpatine there. So that was.
Well, I'm trying to figure in the timeline. Was that after Ahsoka had left Anakin?
Yes.
So maybe it was something that, Thrawn didn't know. And,
right.
And just because of timing.
Yeah. I mean, you can kind of make that argument. Jedi Bulldog on YouTube says Morgan will be killed by Ahsoka, but the witches make her some special weapons to fight, and it will be an awesome scene. I also think Ezra is under the witches' influence and will bring Sabine.
I don't know. I think there's more to this Ezra story, because I can't believe that Thrawn wouldn't try to hunt down Ezra.
He wants to get out of there. He doesn't care.
The way I see it, it's all strategy on Thrawn's part. This is all part of his big, 40 chess strategy maneuvering that he's trying to accomplish here to accomplish his main goal of going back to the New Republic galaxy. And I mean, he kind of said it in one of the pieces of dialogue. He said, he's like, they're way over there. That's what I want. We're accomplishing our mission of getting all this cargo loaded. Whatever the cargo is, we're all thinking it's like night witch zombies or something. I don't know. But yeah, I can't wait to see. Hopefully we get the reveal tonight of what that cargo is. Zach says on YouTube, we're at about 10 years past Return of the Jedi, and Luke will probably go into hiding another 15 to 20 years after the season takes place. And some guy named James Herrera on Facebook says, no. This Facebook user says if Balin survives, get Liam Cunningham to replace him if you really want him to be recast.
I've actually heard that name around before. I'm trying to remember.
Onion Knight.
See, I heard someone throw out Gerard Butler. I like that casting.
He looks a little bit more like Balin than Liam Cunningham does.
I think Liam's too old.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Yeah, he's in his 80s now. So yeah, good actor though. Love that guy.
Yeah.
Well, this is a finale, so it's got to be big. So what's going to make it epic? You know what I mean? There's got to be something exciting. It can't just be all dialogue in a finale.
I think the epicness of it is going to be how they leave us hanging with it. I really do. I think it's going to be the anticipation now of what we're going to be stuck waiting 1.5 years to 2 years for to get the full reveal on it.
I'm just saying though, it can't be just dialogue and he just leaves. There's got to be some kind of fighting, a battle, whether they're racing back to try and get to Thrawn in time before they take off and they don't make it. Something's got to happen that's more than just he leaves. You know what I mean? What's the conflict here? Is it about Balin and this whatever's on the planet? I mean,
I think it's a couple of things. I think it's about Balin, what's on the planet. I think it's about them getting back to Thrawn. I think the piece that I've always been kind of questioning is there's something more with Sabine, I think, because, she's been so hesitant to tell Ezra the truth about how she got there. Like, she's just keeping these little secrets. I think there's going to be, and how the Night Sisters reacted to her when she got there, how she's like, oh, she's a Jedi, and she's like barely excited. There's going to be, I think, a pretty big revelation sometime in this episode with Sabine.
Zach says on YouTube, people are theorizing that Shin could be a Mara Jade replacement. Can't say I love the theory, but it's out there.
In which way? That's what I'm curious what people are saying. Like how? People say, what, love interest for Luke, or someone that's going to work with Thrawn and then against him, or join up with another smuggler. I mean, dance for Jabba.
I think it's the middle one. I think she's maybe going to be closer to Thrawn, and that actress Vanna Sackno has done a great job as Shin.
I like her.
Yeah. Yeah, she's-
Honestly, the entire cast has been phenomenal. I don't think there's been one
Yeah.
miscasting in this series.
No, it's really been everybody's like really enjoyable as a character. And if this feels like the first show that it's like that you want to make an action figure about this character. You know, you certainly didn't feel that way with Andor. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it feel like the bait, like the new lightsabers. I put it out there for HasLab to make maybe like the Balin and Shin set to do the next HasLab, because those are pretty cool looking.
But feel like Star Wars characters, you know, as opposed to like even Kenobi. Like, how many of those characters would you want made into action figures and play with as a kid?
Yeah,
I think that's a good point, because I think this show, to me, of all the shows, except from since maybe Mando season 1, this show has felt like the most Star Wars show to me, like traditional Star Wars feel to it, and because it's encompassing aspects from everything, and I think it's, you know, it's done a very good job of that. I mean, Andor is great for what it is, but Andor is not a traditional Star Wars show. I think Obi-Wan had its limitations. Mandalorian season 2 was phenomenal. Season 1 was good. Season 3 was a little up and down, but I think this has been like the best true Star Wars show that they've done to this point.
I would say for me, it's season 2 of Mando, then probably this.
I think that's fair. I think you could interchange those easily.
I need to see this last episode first before I make that judgment. I'm enjoying it, but I'm not ready to crown it yet. Because if they drop the ball, that's going to have a huge impact on what's happened before for me personally.
That's a good point.
Because I've had issues with Ahsoka's character herself. I've had issues of the way that Thrawn has been ordering things and not really being a menace right now, and or a threat. So I need to see how they handle this up.
Well,
I mean,
okay, so I have a question regarding that, because you say if they drop the ball, but we know we're ending on a cliffhanger too. More than one. I mean, it's just,
yeah. There's a good cliffhanger and there's a crappy cliffhanger. You know, you know. I hope that they really give us a big bang before they send us off for however long we're going to reconnect to these characters again.
yeah. 46 minutes is the reported runtime, I believe. So.
I did want to say that I don't really feel like Thrawn could be a menace right now. He's been depleted. You know, he doesn't really have much of an army or anything. I mean, what is he going to do? He just wants to get off of this planet. He just wants to get back to the galaxy. I think he's just thinking, get me out of here. This place sucks.
I think we'll be good as long as it's not revealed that Thrawn isn't part of the Council of Kangs.
Ugh.
There's a Marvel deep cut there. Noah Richer on YouTube says, from what I've seen, a lot of fans are calling for Liev Schreiber to take up the mantle of Balin.
I actually like that. I like that. He's short. He's a little shorter though. But I like him. I could see him doing so. Yeah, he is. Yeah. Because Ray is like 6'4" or something like that. He's a tall dude. So maybe even taller. So
I want to say I saw Liev Schreiber stand next to Aaron Rodgers on Hard Knocks, and they looked about the same height. So he looks pretty tall to me. Jorge on YouTube says, do you guys think that the episode will be rushed? It's only 46 minutes. I
think it's kind of inevitable. It's going to feel at points a little bit rushed, because I don't think they can address everything that they've set up in the 46-minute finale.
Should be Disney show policy. Give us like an hour and a half finale every time, you know? Make it happen.
Yeah. I mean,
this show hasn't felt rushed to me at all, though. Every episode's been solid.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the first 2 episodes were kind of slow. I was just talking to Kyle earlier before the show, and it feels like it's built up. It's really snowballed into something that's fast and intense and very much quintessential Star Wars. And I've liked every episode just about more and more, and it really kind of found its footing right before I believe I like episode or part 4, I think, right when we got the Anakin reveal, and then all the interest built, and then of course we got Hayden back, and we got him back again, and then we got the introduction of Thrawn, then we got the introduction of the new planet with the new creatures that I think we all kind of universally liked or loved. So yeah,
You know,
uh,
if I'm going with a little bit of sarcasm here, you know, Disney could cross promote at the end of the episode. We think Ahsoka and her crew are stranded, and a blue police box shows up at the end of the episode. Disney's got to hype that upcoming Doctor Who release on Disney Plus. So,
well, the better cross promotion I think would be Loki. The TVA would show up because I think Loki's going to premiere at the same time, right?
I
As
know. Look,
Ahsoka.
yeah,
Or is it next week?
yeah, on Thursday. Yeah,
Okay.
Thursday.
Oh,
But
Thursday. Okay.
yeah, Disney's learned their lesson. I think they realized, yeah, maybe putting stuff out at 3 in the morning on East Coast time is not the best of decisions.
Yeah, I'm glad they made that change, and we were like pining for it here on the podcast, and I like to think they listen to us. Zach on YouTube says, "Do we think Skeleton Crew could take place before Ahsoka, or is it confirmed to take place after? Maybe Ahsoka will set up the Filoni movie the most in terms of plot. I think it takes part before, during, and after, maybe, because I think there's a lot of stuff going down. I think they're jumping to it's like a Lost in Space with kids Star Wars show, so they're going to jump from spot to spot and probably run into spots that maybe I don't know that we've kind of seen before."
I got a little extra excited for the Skeleton Crew because of Jude Law. I was watching Enemy at the Gates the other day, where he plays the famous Russian sniper Vasily Zaitsov, and he was really, really good in that. And
yeah, that's a great film.
I can't wait to see him in Star Wars. I'm really excited.
My only concern with that show is that character Vane was so corny in Mandalorian. I'm like, he's the main villain.
Well, I don't think he's the main villain. I think he's like more just connective tissue so that you kind of get yourself in the right headspace of where the show kind of takes place. I think that Salad the Hut guy that I call is gonna reappear. I think he's gonna be one of the main villains.
That's funny.
Yeah. So
you think he survived that?
well, I mean, if it takes place before, in the middle, and after, I mean, there's a chance that he shows up in the first part of that season. So that's totally possible. And of course, they got the suit, and I always like to think that they're gonna at some point recycle the Yoda puppet that they used on Craig's favorite film there. So
Don't say it.
The movie that shall not be named.
This is a happy moment. Maybe the happiest moment of my life. Don't spoil it.
So some guy named James Herrera on Facebook says they do listen to us. All right. And Jorge on YouTube says, "I don't trust it is a Kathleen Kennedy show in which he plays a speaking role, and the director seems to not be a fan of Star Wars."
I had a question for you, David.
Yeah.
I was overseas on vacation when it happened. Did
I know.
you see the live action, or did you see the episode on the big screen, that limited thing that they had?
Episode
It was
5.
episode 5. Did you go to that?
I got the confirmation here printed on my desk, but my wife got sick, so I stayed home because the closest showing to me was like 4.5 hours away from my house.
Okay.
So I was gonna make the trip up there, but my brother lives there, so I would have had a place to stay and
I
everything.
hadn't heard any feedback on what it was like, so I was just curious.
Oh well, Craig saw it.
I saw it.
Oh, how was it in the theater for you?
I loved it. It was a little bit chaotic with the lining up because they didn't want people to line up until like, I don't know, 5 o'clock. And people were, we got there at like 12:30ish because we're thinking, who knows? It's Star Wars. People could.
Where was this?
Disney Springs
In
Oh, okay.
LA?
and
No.
Orlando.
Orlando.
Disney Springs,
Gotcha.
Orlando.
Okay. Gotcha.
And so it was packed. I think about half the people got turned away, that they couldn't fit them all. It was only one theater. And so I think about half the people couldn't get in.
Just a
Gotcha.
question, Craig. Are you in the Orlando area?
Yeah.
Because I live in just south of Tampa, and I couldn't get away from work. Otherwise, I would have tried to go. Plus, it filled up. The list just filled up like that.
Yeah. I lucked out because David had sent a text saying that it was going on, and so I hopped on the website right away and got tickets. But it was nice. I mean, it was great to see that episode on the big screen.
Yeah, that episode definitely had the cinematic feel to it.
Yeah. It's not like we get to see Star Wars on the big screen very often these days, so.
Point of contention.
It was
So yeah, that brings us to the next thing I think we probably want to address here. So we mentioned it earlier on the podcast that they are listening to us. They're putting these shows on at a normal viewing time where everyone can watch them. They're basically doing what other streaming services have been doing so that we can all talk about the show before and after and then the next day at work. So I think the next thing that Lucasfilm Disney needs to do is maybe like tonight, maybe put the finale in the theaters, not just in select cities, but just about everywhere. I mean, there's such a want to go back to theaters and see Star Wars. And Kathleen Kennedy said, we want to eventize Star Wars. This is how you eventize Star Wars. You put maybe the first 2 episodes, the middle episode, if it's a huge episode like with Hayden returning, and maybe the finale back in put them in theaters. And I think that even the whole series, I mean, you could do it that way too.
You could have easily done 7, 8, and 9 as a theatrical experience.
You could do it that way too, because of course we all know it's all these episodes are 36 to 46 minutes long, so people sit in theaters for way longer than that. And even if you want to charge, I mean, a price for, I mean, like $10 per ticket, $5, whatever.
I think most people would play regular ticket prices if you were getting at least 2 hours worth of content.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally think
it would be. I think it would do well. I think a lot of theaters would sell out. You know, you put it in 3 theaters, it should sell out easy.
Well, and let's be honest. I think the studios do owe the theaters a little something for all the crap they had to put them through for the last few years. So
yeah. I mean, the span of time between films and Star Wars needs to be in the theater. I mean, from 2019 to possibly 2026 now. I mean, that's too long a time not to have a Star Wars film or something Star Wars related in the theaters. I know we just had the mid-season fan event. I know we did that. I know they did a fan event for the first 2 episodes or first 3 episodes, whatever they did in select cities. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Kevin went to that 2 episodes. But yeah, I mean, it's just kind of one of those things that, I mean, Disney wants to make more money. This is a way to do it. Easily a way to do it. I don't know how the movie theaters would work with Disney with that, but I mean, come on, it's Disney. I'm pretty sure there's a way.
I think the theaters at this point, anything that would draw people into the theaters are going to take. I mean, I'm actually shocked that they are, considering Loki also premieres this week, they aren't doing something either with Ahsoka or Loki in a theater. You know, give us the first 2 episodes of Loki or something like that. I'm hoping they do something with Skeleton Crew because, I mean, we're realistically, once Skeleton Crew hits, it's going to be a while before we see it. Will probably be second half of 2024 before we even get hints of Andor season 2 coming out.
Yeah, they probably won't release Andor till next summer, right?
I'm thinking it's going to be a fall holiday release for Andor because I don't know how much they still have to shoot. And
yeah, for Andor, the production kind of halted for a while. And Tony Gilroy joined the picket lines. And after a while, after the strike was going on for quite a bit, the crew that were a part of Unity and not SAG-AFTRA overseas, they continued to work. So they, I don't know, pardon the pun here, they had a skeleton crew going on, working Andor. But of course, the writing aspect of it, they couldn't do rewrites and adjustments and stuff. So that production essentially halted. But I mean, now they can continue the writing process, and we have to get the actor stuff nailed down.
Although we do have the Acolyte too.
Yeah, that
I think
sounds
that's
like
2025.
I think it's next year. I think the original plan before the strikes was the beginning of 2024. So I think there was a little bit of pushback just because of scheduling. They pushed that back a little further, I believe. But I think we're going to get Acolyte around April, May timeframe, somewhere around there.
Are they that done with filming it?
They're pretty much done. We got a pretty complete trailer in London, and it was awesome at Celebration. So it's
because it kind of feels to me with the way the strike has fallen and everything. It's like the first half of 2024 is going to be a lot of the stuff that got pushed back that was supposed to be out holiday time, early 2024. It's going to end up being later in that first half, and then it's going to be the second half of 2024 where we're going to start seeing the stuff that we were actually supposed to get in the beginning of 2024 come out, and the second half of 2024 is going to be loaded.
Well,
right.
they gotta put stuff out because you need a reason to keep people subscribed. So you got to put out something.
Right. So
And
Skeleton Crew.
I don't think Marvel shows are doing it at this point.
Yeah, Loki should give them a pretty decent bump because that was the most popular show. But Skeleton Crew, if we all remember, it was supposed to drop during Thanksgiving of this year. So now that that's pushed back, it's pushing everything back as well. And I think the Christmas miracle we're hoping for now is that we get Skeleton Crew around Christmas time this year, if they can get that all finished.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Because they're planning to drop What If Season 2 during Christmas time. And then now I've been hearing Echo will come out sometime in January. So my feeling is we'll get Skeleton Crew after Echo because Disney does not like to have Marvel and Star Wars airing at the same time on the service.
Right. Yeah, there's another factor right there, Marvel. I would like what we're about to see, even though Ahsoka's ending, have Star Wars Tuesdays and Marvel Thursdays. That would be nice, and to have them coexist in the same week. There was that time period when we had Andor, the House of am I saying that correctly? The House of the Dragon, right? And She-Hulk and the Amazon Lord of the Rings show all happening simultaneously for about like a 4 to 6 week period there. It was like, I loved it.
That was like the nerdiest nerd of all time. Like
that was really awesome.
Nerd stress level was through the roof for like 2 months.
Podcasters were in hell.
We were overworked there. Jedi Bulldog, just say been listening to you guys for a year. Thanks, man. And this is the first time I watched you guys. I think I need to join Patreon to help you guys get some more room for your toys. So,
I need more physical media. Help me out.
It's a sad state I'm living in. If I don't double my room immediately, I'm gonna just trip over these things.
All right, so we covered essentially what we think is going to happen tonight. This is a pre-show for Ahsoka, and I don't want to get too far ahead of the show that's happening tonight. It is the season finale, but I can't help myself. I want to know what you guys think as far as if you guys even put any serious thought into what Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are going to give us in their film that we know for sure is going to be released. I think it's going to be hard to replace Filoni like Lucasfilm has done with so many directors. What are you guys thinking? Is this going to be essentially kind of an Heir to the Empire-esque type retelling where they're going to take different characters, like the one person on chat said Shin was going to be replacement for Mara Jade. We all know Mara Jade was in that Thrawn trilogy. Are we going to get something akin to that? And it's all going to take place before the sequel trilogy as well. So, Craig, I'm looking at you. Are we going to get Luke, Leia, Han stuff? I mean, what are you guys thinking?
If Filoni gave us that, the fans would be just thrilled. That was the biggest mistake out of this new trilogy. I mean, people waited 30 years to see those characters together. How do you not have one scene? It's just absolutely ridiculous.
God, that still rubs me raw so hard. Of all things in my 53 years of fandom, that is the worst thing that I hang my hat on. It was a big mistake.
It was horrible.
Even worse than Highlander 2.
It was horrible. I mean, we waited. We want to see Luke, Leia, Han, R2, C3PO, everybody together, even for just a little bit, even just to see what's, you know what I mean? But for them to be the way they were at, it was just, oh man, it was just such a.
To answer your question, David, I think this is where, after what Craig said here, this is where I think that he can give the fans that moment, because you don't bring someone in like Thrawn to be the big bad, to be the heir to the Empire, where he rises before the rise of the First Order, to not bring in a version of Luke and Leia and Han. At this point, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I don't care if they're recast. I don't care if they're mocap face or whatever and de-age and there's another actor playing the body. I don't give a damn. I need to see those characters in this conflict in the movie. We have to have that. It would be nice if we got teased with a Leia, maybe in tonight's episode, or in a second season if we get one. With how powerful Leia is, we need something like that.
I agree, but I would prefer them to be de-aged than recast. That would make me nuts.
Well, you'd have to do something with Leia. I mean, you'd have to have an actress play her, and then you'd have to, put something on the face and de-age that way, however you do it. But either way, Leia's going to have to be recast. So,
okay, so here's a question then: if they let's throw out the recast of Leia. Do we go the Millie Bobby Brown route for Leia?
At this point, I think she's too young for that. She would be better for a young Leia prequel series. But I'm sure they could find someone to do it. I'd be fine with it. I don't know if you could make Alden Ehrenreich older to play Han, since he did it in Solo. I don't know. At this point, I don't care. I just need these characters back again together, working against the new threat.
Here's the other thing, though. Let me say this real quick. I meant to say this earlier. You're going to have some characters with Force abilities. It can't be just against Thrawn. Because it's going to be boring if it's just Luke and Leia cutting up stormtroopers over and over and over again. You need those.
It's the Night Sisters, maybe?
You need duels. You need something that it's going to be an interesting fight. I don't want to see stormtroopers getting cut down over and over. They don't feel like a threat.
Yeah, like battle droids.
Characters that can really go up against Luke or Leia or whoever, like the Emperor or Darth Vader.
I think that's the aspect, because I don't necessarily, I just have in the back of my head that Disney's just not going to give us that Luke, Leia, and Han moment. There's just something there. Disney doesn't want to give it all us together. Do we see Luke?
The question is, though, Kyle, does Filoni want to do that? Because Filoni has pull.
Does Filoni have enough pull? That's the question.
I think he does, and he's already given us Luke.
Yeah, and I think we will get Luke at some point during this. But I really think, as far as your Jedi users, you're kind of set up. You have Ahsoka, you have Sabine, you have Ezra, and I think there's a big thing with Ezra that we haven't actually talked about that I'm kind of curious about with you guys. Is the fact that Ezra wanted no piece of a lightsaber. At least, Sabine's like, "Here, take your lightsaber." He's like, "No, I don't want it. I gave it to you. It's yours to keep." I mean, I think they're setting it up for when Ezra eventually picks up a lightsaber again, whether it's in the finale tonight or at another part later on. That's going to end up being a pretty significant moment, because I think we're going to get some kind of reveal of why Ezra doesn't want to pick up a lightsaber.
I think it was more that he's had 10 years on this planet without one, and he's just used to handling himself without it.
I think he was that, and he factored in Sabine would probably need it in this fight.
But, it's an interesting thing. You never know what's going to happen, but
yeah.
I don't know.
I just feel like, go ahead. I just feel like he's setting it up to be about these characters he's created in this Mandoverse more than it. And that's why I think we could see Luke, since Luke has been a part of this. But I just don't know if we're going to see. I think this is more about him getting closure on the stories that he's built in the Clone Wars and in Rebels and within this Mandoverse that he's created.
Well, we're gonna need some other villains besides Thrawn to go up
Well,
Jedi.
there's going to be a younger Snoke out there still alive.
I mean as much as we joke about it, I mean that's a distinct possibility.
Andy Serkis.
Yeah, but what is the deal with Snoke? Wasn't he just like a puppet? I don't understand. I still don't get it.
An army of Snokes.
Yeah.
Because we see them all in that vat being created. I don't know. Yeah,
I still don't understand what Snoke was. If he was really just Palpatine in the body all the time, if he was like, was he even alive? Like, if Palpatine wasn't in the body, like, I don't even know.
yeah.
Does anybody know?
I'm curious. I'm gonna throw this out for you guys. When this is all said and done, could one of our final shots be the establishing of Luke's Jedi temple?
Yeah,
Start-
with Ben Solo. That's a possibility.
And Jason Dula possibly. Jason Sedula.
I really like
possibly.
I like that kid who
Yeah.
played. I really did.
And maybe even Sabine being involved, Sabine and Ezra being involved in it somehow. If Ezra survives all this, I'm kind of having Ezra's kind of high up on my not in Ahsoka, but before this is all said and done, not to make it through.
Well, the other thing that's odd is like, where are all these characters during 7, 8, and 9?
I don't think they're around.
Well, where are they? Are they still in this other galaxy?
I think some of them are going possibly sacrificed, and depending on what happened, I mean, maybe again things that happened before we get to episode 7 with some of the conflicts. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, you would think Hera might be kind of aged out at this point. By that point, it's hard to. I think it's hard to say, and I think that's one of the things that's so intriguing about what Dave is doing with all of this is because he is, whether we want to admit to it or not, he is trying to set it up so this flows into those sequel trilogy films.
And there was a lot of belief in the beginning, I think, that this was a great opportunity for Dave to keep them all in a different galaxy and just have them there. And that will explain why they didn't show up in the sequels. But I think the universal opinion now is that Thrawn does make it back, and then maybe our heroes are left on Peridea, but somehow they eventually make it back for the movie, and then we have the big battle or whatever, and we bring in everyone from Book of Boba Fett, The Mandalorian, Skeleton Crew, every other show they create, including Ahsoka, and have this big climactic battle that happens in the Filoni film. So tonight's going to color a lot of that in for us, hopefully, and we get to see the beginnings of where Filoni's trying to lead us into his film. So going back to chat here, looking through it. Zach on YouTube, he wants to know, going into the finale, what is y'all's favorite episode of Ahsoka so far?
You know, I think the most intense episode was episode 4
with the dogfighting.
Yeah,
that's when Ahsoka fell off the cliff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That probably was the most intense episode for me. And then we got Anakin at the very end of that episode. But then, of course, it's hard. How do you top 5? 5 was amazing too, and then 6 was amazing. So,
I think for me,
between 4 and 5,
I think 4 has the most. I think it's interesting because I think it's this arc. I think it's that 4, 5, 6 arc that's kind of there because that's kind of. Those are the episodes where the show really shifted. It kind of wrapped up the storyline that was set in 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 4 setting up episode 5 with the world between worlds, and then episode 6 setting us up, bringing all the pieces together. Basically, but I mean, I think for me, it's got to be episode 5 or 6 because I think just 5 is so powerful with having Anakin there, the revisitation of seeing Clone Wars in live action,
Yeah.
the things they set up there, and then 6 with our return with the reunions and seeing these characters again and really kind of putting the pieces on the chessboard. I know for me, I came out of especially episode 6 going, there was no way going into this. I thought the Night Sisters were going to be as big a part of the show as they turned out to be. I think that's one of the biggest surprises of Ahsoka to me was how heavy the Night Sisters are involved in the plot of the story.
I favor. I think 5 or 6 are definitely good, but I still favor the first episode. I thought it was a great introduction to the characters and to the world. It felt very cinematic, even though I did see it in the theater. Watching it again at home on a big screen TV, I've watched that one the most, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's what I was about to bring up. What episode have you guys watched the most? That's probably going to be your favorite if it's going to be a tough decision to choose.
I judge my fandom on how rewatchable is something. And
I agree.
Am I going to keep a physical copy of it? Am I going to stream it more than once? Am I going to buy it on a bootleg because it's not available on physical media, so I have to buy it that way? That's how I judge it, is rewatchability. So
I agree with that. Like, because I know, like, I'll watch Mandalorian season 2 over and over and over again. I love every one of those episodes. I don't think there's a bad episode that. And I'll watch Andor some episodes from time to time, but Ahsoka's really rewatchable. I've probably seen every episode at least 3 times.
I would say of the bunch, 2 is probably the least rewatchable of Ahsoka. But
Yeah.
I mean, for the most part, I think otherwise all the episodes are pretty much. This is probably the most rewatchable show right to this point of the Star Wars shows because I can rewatch Mando season 1 and season 2 all the time too. But I think there's something with this one, and maybe because it is. I think this is going to be one of those ones when people do the Rebels rewatches, they're going to include this as part of the rewatch of Rebels too, and I think that's something to take into consideration too.
Yeah, I rewatched I think 4, 5, and 6 the most. Just trying to look at the seams and see if I could tell if Hayden Christensen was like how good a job they did de-aging him, and I still don't think we kind of know what techniques they used on Hayden, but at the end of part 4, he looked very, very like airbrushed kind of, and we were all kind of worried.
I think that was intentional, though. I really think that was a creative choice they made because of being in the world between worlds.
But then in part 5, he didn't look like that anymore, so it was kind of like,
I think it's how Ahsoka was evolving, because I think the best he actually looked like looking like Hayden was the hologram in episode 7.
Yeah, and I think you can actually hide some things better as a hologram, but
I think it was an intentional kind of have him have this like mystical, not quite set look while they were in the world between worlds. Because I'm curious, because I don't necessarily think that was the true Anakin Skywalker Force ghost. I think that was in part the Force pull, but I think it was the Force pulling in Anakin that Ahsoka was having in her own subconscious as well.
I really hope Filoni comes out and talks about that, because everybody's nuts. And I think it was Anakin. And here's why. At one point, when she's towards the end of the interaction, and just before he leaves, Anakin looks over to the left like that, like almost signaling to the Force, this is time to end. And then a second later, we hear the noise, and that's when the walkway goes together. So to me, if he was an embodiment of the Force, he would have just maybe like closed his eyes. But he looked off to the side, which was interesting to me, almost like letting the Force know it's time to, send her back.
It's tough to say, because it's like when you go into the world between worlds, you got to be pulled through a doorway, and Ahsoka didn't have to. Is there a rule, like if you've already been to the world between worlds, you can somehow get there without going through a portal or doorway? I mean, it's kind of one of those things where Filoni might be leaving that up to interpretation. And the fact
And
that
then-
Jason Sandula heard the clashing, so it was happening at some level. But of course, we all know he's like super force sensitive. So yeah, I mean, you can. It's an argument to go back and forth constantly, yay or nay.
Well, the other thing is the lightsabers, because if you watch when she's talking to Anakin, there's a wide shot, right? And she doesn't appear to have the lightsabers on her belt. I looked. I tried to zoom in. I couldn't see him. But then the next shot, when it's like you see her standing in the water, they are on the side of her belts again. They're both back.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know.
I think that's a problem. With the problem when you're dealing with something like that with the world between worlds, anything can happen. So it leaves it open for adaptation. I think the one thing Dave did phenomenally with the world between worlds though was he didn't make it super confusing for the viewer of what it was. He didn't try to go into the back history that was established in Rebels. He just felt like, okay, this is a Jedi and Force thing, and that's all I really need to know. And I think that was a brilliant move by his part because it could have really confused a lot of people who hadn't seen Rebels.
And I'm just wondering, where's Morai at?
I don't know what I just hope Dave comes out and says something, but I feel like he's gonna be like, well, what do you think it was?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a typical Dave move.
Just give me a Islamiri that Thrawn can throw around his neck. That's all I need. I need to see a live action version of this guy right here with his little pet. Yeah, right there. Or I had to go buy the Luke figure just to get the damn Islamiri. Give me that. That's all I need.
That's funny.
Yeah, and we do have that as a spot on our bingo card. So
can we get Max Rebo off of the bingo card?
Max Rebo lives.
Okay, he lives, but can we get him off the bingo card?
If Eddie from Eddie and the Cruisers can live, Max Rebo can live.
I think he's alive, but why does he have to be on the bingo card?
That's funny, Kyle. I just watched that second movie, by the way. That's funny.
Well,
Colin is killing us with Max Rebo. I mean,
that's good. Good stuff.
Yeah. So,
you'd have a better chance with putting Snaggletooth on there. At least he's alive, right? We know for sure Snaggletooth is alive, right? He's off in a galaxy having a good time.
Velkin Tazeri is not, unfortunately.
Yeah. So yeah, that the bingo card. I mean, it essentially ends tonight. So
do you have the bingo? Can you? I don't know what all's on that. Can you say what's on it?
I was trying to find the picture. I think the picture actually got deleted from StreamYard. But if you do go to our Instagram, Kevin, you can see it.
Okay, I'll check that out right now.
But yeah, so yeah, the creature Kevin pointed out, Max Rebo, Craig pointed that out. Those are two spots right there. So yeah, tonight is the last night, of course. You can shout out bingo, and of course, like we said, you just have to tell us via one of our social media channels.
Is there even a possibility for a bingo tonight?
There's a possibility. I don't think it's likely, but what we did state is if you don't get a traditional bingo across, up, down, diagonally, we take four corners. If that doesn't happen, all the spots that they called out, that's a bingo.
Every time you say bingo, I always think of Inglourious Basterds.
Yeah.
That's a bingo. I just watched that movie too. All right, where is it?
So yeah, whoever
shouts
out bingo.
Okay, so hold on. Here it is. Here it is. I've got Inquisitor Ezra, Order 66, Petting a Lothcat, Grogu, Morai, Rex, Mustafar, Yoda, Luke, Ahsoka getting her Kyber crystals, Leia, Islamiri, Obi-Wan, and Anakin flashback. Max Rebo, leave him on there. I like that. Nogri assassins and Grisk. Is he the main assassin? Who's Grisk? Remind me.
Grisk is the race that fought the Chiss.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good bingo. I like that. That's a bingo.
So yeah,
All I'm going to say-
if you do get a bingo, if you fill out all the spots that have been called out, we're gonna review it on the post show. I believe we might actually reveal the winner there, but we do have to kind of come together and come to a agreement because this was a very hard bingo card to actually get a bingo.
To make it easier going in the future, always include Max Rebo.
We have.
No one will ever win.
So guys, if there is a Grogu appearance in the finale of Ahsoka, like he's the one who senses a disturbance in the Force or something like that, we know then that the Disney marketing people actually control everything that happens with Star Wars.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there might be a post credits, and we might get something there. I mean, that's a possibility because I do think Grogu is going to be one of the main characters for the Filoniverse, of course. Grogu and Ahsoka, of course. Those are the two big ones.
I had a question because I've heard this brought up a little bit, but not a lot. Do you think that with the reception, the overall reception of the sequel trilogy, do you think that they could retcon a couple of things, change a few things going into it that,
I don't think retcon, but I think they can kind of like maneuver their way around certain things.
I would say they would have more freedom to retcon if there was an Array movie coming.
Yeah, that's the big one. They're not going to do anything with the sequels because Daisy Ridley's going to star in a future Star Wars film. So all these people that are hoping that the sequels are going to be erased somehow, I don't think that's going to happen. There's a lot of Rey fans out there, and a lot of, especially young female fans that watch Star Wars: The Sequel Trilogy, and that's what they fell in love with, and that's their original trilogy, like for us. So
let me ask something along those lines, but not so much a retcon. But could what Dave is doing with all of these things eventually leading into the sequel trilogy, because my argument with the sequel trilogy is that nothing in it felt earned. Nothing in that story felt earned because we never got that story between Jedi and Force Awakens. Could Dave make at least some things in the sequel trilogy feel earned and have some clarity to them?
Yes, I definitely do. I think they kind of started laying the groundwork, and way before, long time ago now, before the Mandalorian season 1 dropped, there's a whole article in Vanity Fair stating that the Mandalorian is leading up to the creation of the First Order. So we're going to lead up to the First Order at some point. It feels like. Then of course stories change, scheduling changes, but I think that's still the main endpoint of the Mandalorian, Ahsoka, and every other show and event that's taken place for the Disney Plus TV shows, aside from Andor, I guess. But yeah, it's all going to lead up to it. Yeah, I think the sequel trilogy is pretty much untouchable. It's locked in, but there's ways around it though. I mean, you look at one of Craig and my favorite all-time moments in Star Wars, Luke Skywalker showing up on Moff Gideon's ship and just like wrecking shop, and we got him back for a small moment in time, and we got him back again in Book of Boba Fett, which is a huge, shocking surprise. Yeah, and then we might get him again tonight. We just don't know. And I think we're all kind of assuming that we'll see Luke in action, hopefully, in the Filoni movie. And I think that's really kind of the hope. And they've laid the groundwork. They've spent the money on the technology and the deep fakes and the different actors and the methods to bring Luke back. So it's like, utilize all that stuff, you know?
Here's an interesting one. Will we see Zeb tonight?
No. Unless it's like in an after credit scene or something like that, because I think
I think it's a high possibility, actually.
Yeah.
I think it's a high possibility because I think that you need to set not just the foundation of the threat that Thrawn is moving forward, but also this ghost crew and that. I think that's a high possibility, actually.
I think you're more likely to see Zeb next in the film, because I think Zeb showing up maybe to like save Ezra, Hera, and Sabine or something like that would play a really big deal. And I think you'd want to give that moment more than something that might feel a little rushed in this 46 minutes here. So I think I could see it's like in the opening of the movie. That's one of the first things we see is Zeb.
Could be the end of tonight's episode. Thrawn
Yeah.
makes it back, and then Zeb
Yeah.
is leading the fighters, and we see Zeb with the helmet on and right about to go up against him, and then it just cuts to black right there, and we don't get it because it's going to be the Filoni movie.
Well, I mean, I think we're gonna get a season 2 of Ahsoka, don't you guys?
Ahsoka, the character, is going to continue for sure. If we're going to get a season 2, I just heard Rosario Dawson talk today. It was an old interview about if the fans accept what they do and watch Ahsoka, and I think the numbers have been decent. I think there's a good chance that we get Ahsoka season 2. I'm pretty sure Dave's already had it mapped out in his mind for years now. But then, of course, he's going to do the film and how that plays into what their strategy is for storytelling between Dave, the story group, the other new filmmakers are bringing on board with James Mangold and his project, and then the Daisy Ridley project. And
well, we know the Mangold project's going to be well away timeline wise, but
right.
I think with Ahsoka season 2, I think it depends on the story group. Are they going to feel like they need to flesh out more story before this movie comes out, or is it going to be let's tell a new tale of Ahsoka after this movie, if assuming that she survives the movie?
It feels like a good natural stopping point for them to stop doing Thrawn stuff and lead into a movie now, because it feels like it's going to be pretty cinematic when he comes back, if he does come back. But it feels like we're going to get Mando season 4. We're going to get Skeleton Crew, of course. It's going to tie into the stuff that we're seeing in Ahsoka, if any at all. I mean, it's going to maybe it doesn't tie in that much. I think Mando season 4 is going to tie in way more. But yeah, it's just the timing of everything, the strikes that pushed everything back.
I think there's so much unknown compared to what we would have thought we would know at this point. You mentioned Skeleton Crew kind of feeling like it might be a little bit lost in space kind of thing.
Yeah.
What if the finale of Skeleton Crew is they arrive at the planet? Somehow they were able to traverse galaxies for whatever set up in Skeleton Crew, and they arrive at that planet at the end of Skeleton Crew.
That could be the lead in the Skeleton Crew right there. And we all saw the trailer in London, so they got everything pretty much shot. It's pretty much in the can. So I think there's enough footage for them to do something like that. And they all shot, Ahsoka, Mando, and Skeleton Crew shot at Manhattan Beach Studios. So they were all around each other. So there's a possibility for them to cameo tonight in the after credits scene.
That would be nice.
This Facebook user says Max Rebo is a free spot in the center. Well, there is no technical center. In
For
the future
bingos, you should.
So Taylor Helton on YouTube.
Max Rebo. I don't know what, but we got to do something.
Well, there is going to be a Max Rebo species in Ortolan as a main character in Skeleton Crew. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
One of the kids is one of those species.
I think
Nice.
I heard
Or
that
the
before.
Ortolans, if I remember correctly, right? Ortolan?
No.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never heard it said officially.
The Decipher card games bring back memories right now. So,
yeah. So Taylor on YouTube says, I think Dave is so good at taking characters people don't like and changing our opinions on them. Yeah, Ahsoka, there's one of them. What's another Dave character?
Well, they should make Kathleen Kennedy a character then. I'm sorry. Did I say that out loud? Sorry.
I mean, come on. Let's. Dave turned a lot of people's minds on what happened in the prequel trilogy by what he did with Clone Wars.
Yeah. So this Facebook user says just because she has a new movie eventually, I believe Rey, doesn't mean that it isn't a soft reboot of her character series. Kind of, sort of, but I mean, it's still the sequel trilogy is still going to count. Dave could do stuff because to me, when I saw Luke come out and he wrecked shop, that's what I think a certain fan out there thought that that's what we were going to get in The Last Jedi. We didn't get it, but we got it in this. And it
Right.
was like, was that Dave like doing a wink and a nod to those fans that were like dying for
Yeah,
some
I
Luke
thought
action?
we were
Yeah.
gonna go on Last Jedi.
Yeah.
So I mean, yes and no. It's hard to get looking at
Well-
all the social media, everything that Dave Filoni said, to get his stance on what the sequel trilogy was. I mean, of course, he's one of the top employees of Lucasfilm, so he's never going to say if he truly feels that the sequel trilogy was not good or it shouldn't count or he wishes he could. He's never going to say that. But I mean, there's it feels like he might give some hints to letting us know what his opinion is on the matter. And to me, the Luke
His
thing,
silence on them might be his opinion. You know.
Yeah.
right? Yeah, that's another thing too. And George Lucas's silence as well. But of course, that's a whole different dynamic with George.
Well, speaking of Dave, let me
Has
ask.
George,
let me
hold
ask-
on, has George? But I don't think I've seen an interview of George talking about the sequel trilogy at all. Other than
I heard him say comments about Force Awakens. He pretty much said it was it was Star Wars, basically a remake of Star Wars. Like I made that movie, you know.
I heard him asked about The Last Jedi, and the only thing he said, it was a well-made film.
Yeah.
End quote.
Can't say anything nice. Don't say anything at all.
It was really well made. That's what he said, and that was it. And he left it alone.
No, but I have a question regarding Dave, because I mean, I think most people are in agreement that everything that's happened with Dave working with Jon Favreau on Mandalorian and everything he's done is leading up to, I think, Dave getting handed the full keys to the cart. Because let's be honest, Kathleen's getting up there. She's talking retirement. I think John is going to eventually pursue other projects because that's just what John does. He kind of comes in, does what he does, and then kind of moves along to the next thing. But I really think this has kind of been all of this has been Dave's Padawan training for live action, and I just kind of feel like the eventual plan is like Dave is going to be in charge of the whole shebang here with a good support crew around him, obviously, but it's going to be Dave's baby to go forward. I mean, truthfully, I honestly believe at this point Dave has already done more for the Star Wars, the story of the Star Wars universe than George has done, and that's just my personal opinion. But I really think this has been all the training for Dave to take over all the aspects of Star Wars going forward, and I think it's the culmination is him doing this movie.
Yeah, I think that there's a couple levels for him to move up, possibly. I don't think he would ever be president, per se, of Lucasfilm or not have the same duties that Kathleen Kennedy had. The day-to-day job, that's for someone else. That's for someone to sit behind a desk, write their names on the checks. I don't think Dave wants to handle that whatsoever.
The main creative force.
Yeah, he needs to be in charge of creative.
Right. Creative, he's pretty much at the top right now. It's him along with Doug Chang. And there's also someone else at the top. But to me, I think he's proven himself definitely in animation, and he's proven himself in live action. And he gave notes on the Obi-Wan Kenobi show with Deborah Chow directing. I don't think he interfered at all or gave any notes on the Andor series.
No, that was kind of Gilroy's baby.
Tony, yeah. So, I mean, he's already up there pretty high. And it feels like Kathleen Kennedy kind of slowly had to like come into the realization that and Filoni had to cut his teeth, really. I mean, he had to do the thing. He had to do live action. He had to create new story that fans loved, and he's done it. He's proven himself, and he studied at the feet of the master, George Lucas, for years and years. He's right there. I don't think there's anyone that you can replace him with. The question that I keep on bringing up on all these podcasts is who's Filoni's apprentice? Who does he have next to him learning the business of Star Wars? The creative business.
I think it might be Rick.
Okay. So Rick Famuyiwa is directing the episode tonight. He's directed several of my favorite episodes in The Mandalorian. But see, to me, Rick is not armpit deep in Star Wars like Dave is.
I don't think
And I think-
anybody's as deep in Star Wars as Dave is.
Right. But Rick, I think, wants to eventually move on, just like Favreau. I think Favreau's not going to be here forever. I think Filoni's going to be here forever. I think you need a Star Wars lifer to be Dave Filoni's apprentice. And I don't, unless Rick has had a change of heart and he doesn't want to do his films that he's done that were super successful. He's done a lot of other genre stuff. He's done dramatic work, not science fiction, not fantasy based. But I mean, he was an executive producer, right? I think that's a new title that he got. But yeah, I mean, he's moving up. But I mean, that's a possibility. I think Rick is actually. See, I'm thinking of someone like younger than Dave. I think Rick is older than Dave.
Well, I think Dave is still fairly young enough that he doesn't necessarily.
Yeah.
But I think the big thing where the step is for Dave, and he's kind of there already, but I don't think he's fully there. And I'm not saying he's going to take on all the same responsibilities as him, but I think the goal is to get Dave to be what Kevin Feige is for the MCU, as far as being the face of the public face of the MCU for all these cons and everything like that. I think that's really one of the other things, being head of creative and being kind of the face the fans associate with Star Wars for the next 10, 20 years.
Where's my Feige movie?
Well, hopefully it's not a situation where Lucasfilm is so political that it's hard for young people to come up and do this stuff. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes it's hard to make your way up, and then you guys got like Matt Martin above you, who's got no ability to assess talent or, you know.
Well, and I think it's going to be interesting both for but I think it's interesting with both Star Wars and Marvel how Disney addresses everything now that we're coming back from the strike with what Iger has been doing. Because I really think there's going to be a bit of a shakeup in the creative directions in both. Marvel needs it. Star Wars, I think, needs to get more into the movie side of thing. And I think,
ironically, I think one of the people that knows more about Star Wars and what's happened since the Disney era and prior to the Disney era, other than Filoni, might be Matt Wood, because he's like the longest tenured employee there, and he's done all the sound. He's done voices and stuff like that. I don't know if that's his thing though. But
yeah, I don't know if he has any interest in story stuff.
Yeah, that's what I just kind of wonder. Looks like we're T-minus 7 minutes away from the finale dropping. I'll try and run through chat here.
Do you have time to take a nap before I go?
Micro nap, maybe.
Okay.
Quick carbonite freeze for you.
Yeah. Bring them in cold.
Jordy Darter on YouTube says, could we see I think he says Bendu creature in this one?
There could be one on that planet.
Yeah.
That's a possibility.
Yeah. I would like to see like another different like species of Bendu. Maybe like a dragon type creature or something. So Taylor says, yeah, do you mean the Bendu? Yeah, I think that's what he means. Looking through the comments here. Taylor says, I think took Agent Callus and Rebels and did a total of 180 with him. Ended up being, that's another character that kind of turned around, but not in the same way as Ahsoka, though.
What happened to Agent Callus and Rebels? What ended up? Did he survive or did he die?
Yeah, he survived. He joined the rebellion, of course. If you saw Rebels,
that would be a cool character to see in live action. I like that.
Yeah.
I want to see a live action person with those mutton chops. That'd be cool.
Yeah, no one YouTube says I would like to think Bryce Dallas Howard could be Dave's apprentice.
I thought about that when you asked the question.
Yeah, she's like another one, like Rick Famuyiwa. I think she wants to like dabble in different franchises and
she
IPs
still wants to act. She wants to do different things.
Right.
She's too diversified in that to really commit to one big thing like that.
Yeah, she's in that new movie that I just saw a trailer for, where she plays an author.
Argyle.
Yes.
Yeah, Argyle. That looks fun.
Yes. Yeah.
So Taylor also on YouTube says, I would like to know who Dave picked to run the new episodes of Tales of the Jedi. I'm guessing he trusts that person quite a bit. I think it's Dave Filoni. Dave Filoni picked Dave Filoni to run that.
Of him,
I
giving-
nominate me.
Yeah.
you know the meme where like Obama's like standing there giving himself that's Dave Filoni giving himself the medal.
Giving himself the medal. Yeah.
All right,
mean-
everybody's got to take a bathroom break, David. You're working us too much.
Driving you guys. So yeah,
Yeah, pop our popcorn.
yeah. Yeah, go ahead, guys. 4 minutes till. We'll see everyone in the post show. Everyone's welcome back. So right after the episode
Just
ends.
a shout out to Kyle and I are going to be doing a live YouTube on the Fandom Podcast Network on Friday, discussing our thoughts, all spoilerific comments, our Ahsoka watch on Friday, and talking a little Loki as well. So
Nice.
Real quick too. Happy National Kevin Day to Kevin.
yeah, that's right. It's National Kevin Day. The internet says so. So yeah.
I have never heard of this before. This sounds made up.
Is it up there with like National Talk Like a Pirate Day and all that?
It's Talk Like a Pirate Day, National Kevin Day, and then
Okay.
Talk Like a Ninja Day. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Well, that
All
is
right,
it for
guys.
the pre-show.
Take care,
Join us
everybody.
For the post-show. We might reveal some winners for the bingo card and maybe the giveaway for the
Max
Haslam
Rebo
prize.
wins. Max
Max
Rebo always
Bingo.
wins.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
All right,
thanks for having us
thanks for
on.
joining.
All right.
And
take care.
yeah, we'll see you guys
Bye,
in a bit.
everybody.